Listen, I wanted to just share with you something really quick. And I was teaching a spinning class this morning at 6 a.m. And I was bright and early for a good push. And we were doing something called lactic acid threshold training. And they found that real hallmark of fitness really had not so much to do with a VO2 max, which was their aerobic capacity. That wasn't really the telltale sign of really great athletic fitness. It was the ability to tolerate lactic acid was a better sign. Because as soon as the lactic acid builds up in our muscles, the muscles tend to shut off. And it doesn't matter how aerobically trained we are, we still need that threshold. We still need the ability for the body to neutralize acid as it's being produced. So there's something called de-inhibition training. And de-inhibition means that we have inhibitory devices in the body. So for spinning, for example, the legs are working hard, and as they're working hard, they're producing, they're producing this waste product called lactic acid. Well, think about the prefix. Think about acid. The acid base inside the bloodstream actually changes the pH, right? Changes the whole pH of the tissue, and the blood likes to be alkaline. So what the brain's going to do is say, okay, listen, we need to get rid of that, to get rid of the acids as it's being produced, and we need to neutralize it. So what the brain ends up doing is actually sends these little alkalining minerals like calcium, and they'll take calcium, attach a calcium to a piece of hydrogen ion. That makes sense. And then it neutralizes it. It's like if you have an acid stomach, what do you take? Xantax or Tums for the tummy. So the brain has calcium or alkaline minerals that it will use to buffer the acids being produced. So the trick is with some of these lactic acid thresholds is that if it's safe to do so, like spinning or doing squats or let's say push-ups or sit-ups, where it's not a real dangerous activity, and if you fatigue, you're not going to get hurt. Stay in those thresholds. Stay inside those thresholds. If I'm exercising and I'm using a machine, I would use, if I'm doing, like say a seated row, for example, in a gym, I could use that machine because it's safe and it gives me lots of variability, lots of room to play around with. So I'm fatiguing, I'm probably not going to get hurt. I do the same with the machine for bench press. I could really challenge the lactic acid thresholds. So as all this acid builds up and I want to cringe, I'm going to do two things actually. I'm not going to recognize it. So I'm going to be aware of the discomfort in my legs and my chest. But what I'm going to tell my mind to do is kind of just ignore it. Be aware of it. Don't step into it. As long as I'm not recognizing it, like a screaming child who will slowly keep quiet when you realize nobody's listening, the pain will actually subside and I'll be able to push to those levels. Because the pain that we're experiencing, the brain is being tugged at like a child tugging at a mother's shirt. Going, I want attention. And so if we ignore it, but recognize that it's there, focus on our form, but politely ignore the discomfort, the brain will recognize that maybe this is a new threshold, and our ability to train harder goes up past that point. So sometimes when we're fatigued because we're just giving up, not because we're actually super tired and we reached our threshold, we just gave up. And sometimes, again, we find, and we had this discussion this morning, that if I'm operating 80% and I want to change, I want a 20% change. Well, sometimes that 20% change requires 100% effort to really push up that next level, that next metabolic threshold. So, so part of the challenge, again, is that being able to mentally ignore the discomfort as long as it's safe to do so. So it's not joint related, it's just the muscles are on fire, and exercises that are safe to do so. Again, using machines in the gym generally is pretty safe. Also doing sit-ups, doing push-ups, doing squats, any exercise that's really pretty simple to adhere to, really strict and good form. And you can push those levels. And again, cycling, we did it on the bikes this morning, and really we just sat into those legs for 5 minutes at a time and just kept upping the stress. And as long as we had no facial expressions, we had poker face, and we kind of ignored what was going on, we actually pushed through it, and everybody trained so hard. So within your exercises, the ones that are safe to do so, pick the ones that you're kind of a wimp at. Pick the ones that you just simply, going into it, you're not going to do 100%. You just know you're not, right? Or your history has been that you have not. And then buffer it off, right? So realize, okay, squats are a thing, or I always give up on abs, or I always give up on back, or I always give up on push-ups. So when you get to the last one, do 5 more. When you get to the last one, do 5 more. Just to see where you're at, right? So some of your exercises, if you're training for time, so you're training on a circuit, so you're doing, like say, 30-second circuits, then you need to bring the weight up so you're challenged. Or if you're doing for reps, you need to bring the weight up so that you're barely able to get those reps up and really allow yourself to step into that lactic acid threshold training. For myself, for some of my training to push me through, I do as many reps as I can with the weight that I'm using every single set. And so if I normally do 15, I find myself doing 115. Well, that weight was far too light. So just understanding where those levels are and stepping myself into it. So when I'm training, I'm there 100%, giving 100% effort, so that I'm not disappointed with the end result. So it's just something to think about. Play around with your training. Again, remember, intensity is a point of view. Success is also a point of view, and make sure that you're not holding yourself back by, by undermining your ability to really do exactly what you're capable of doing. Okay, have a great workout.